And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have everybody here on this Wednesday, December 27th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. So starting off the show, we're going to talk about the Holiday Classic from Sunday. We'll talk about the Patriots upsetting the Broncos and really putting a dent in the Broncos' playoff chances, basically ending them, in my opinion. So we'll get into that in a second. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the Detroit Lions-Vikings game, the Lions winning the NFC North for the first time in 30 years. So we'll get into that. Then we're going to talk about, in the third part of the show, the Browns winning again, improving to 10-5 on the season. They're in prime position to clinch a playoff spot this week. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Buccaneers-Jaguars game. Two teams heading in different directions right now, as the Bucs win once again, 30-12, and the Jags lose again. So we'll get into that as well. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about Sunday's game between the Patriots and the Broncos. So this was the Holiday Classic that they kept hyping up leading into it. And it actually turned out to be a good game. So can't really complain there. Obviously, it's with two teams that, many years ago, you had Peyton Manning and Tom Brady going at it in AFC Championship games. But now you got Bailey Zappi going against Russell Wilson. So very different. And the Patriots were able to get the win. So we'll kind of go through how this all unfolded. So the Patriots got the ball to start the game. And I actually missed this play because we were having dinner at this point. But the Patriots started off with the ball. And on the first play, Zappi gets sacked, loses the ball, and the Broncos are set up at the New England 6-yard line. So I'm thinking, okay, I took the Patriots with the points. This is not looking good. Then the Broncos turned it over on downs. They actually went for it on 4th and goal. Weren't able to get it. So then the Patriots got the ball back. So no harm, no foul there. Then both teams punted. Then the Broncos, they finally went down the field. They went 5 plays. Well, they went 5 plays, 25 yards. And they got a touchdown. Javonte Williams with 3 yards out scored, so that put the Broncos up 7-0. Then the Patriots answered with a field goal. They went 13 plays, 61 yards, 6 minutes, 45 seconds of time of possession. They got a field goal. Chad Ryland, who actually had a rough game but then redeemed himself, hit a 33-yard field goal, so that put them down by a score of 7-3. So then the Broncos then fumbled. Javonte Williams ended up fumbling in the second quarter. Didn't lead to anything. The Patriots punted. Then the Broncos punted. And then both teams missed field goals to end the first half. Chad Ryland, he missed a field goal, a 47-yarder. And then Will Lutz from 57 yards. He ended up missing. So at the half, it was 7-3. So yeah, it just wasn't looking like it was going to be a good game. It was going to be very low scoring. Then the Broncos punted to open up the second half. Then the Patriots went 5 plays, 70 yards, almost 3 minutes of time possession down the field, and Bailey Zappi connected with Ezekiel Elliott for a 15-yard touchdown. Ryland missed the extra point. Both teams punted. Patriots then scored again. Zappi connected with Mike Gesicki. There was no Hunter Henry, no Juju Smith-Schuster in this game. So Gesicki had to step up, and he did. An 11-yard touchdown, so that put them up 16-7. And then the Broncos actually ended up losing the ball at one point, and the Patriots ended up capitalizing on that. So at one point it was 23-7, which wasn't good. And again, it looked great because I had the Patriots in the game. And the Patriots punted. Broncos then got a touchdown to make it 23-15. Russell Wilson connected with Marvin Mims for a 47-yard reception, and then that set up a touchdown to Krul. So that made it 23-13. Went for 2. They got it. Then the Broncos, after the Patriots punted, they tied the game. Russell Wilson connected with Johnson for a 21-yard touchdown. They got the 2-point conversion, and that tied the game. Then both teams punted. And I thought this game was going to go into overtime, but that ended up not happening. Zappi, big play to Devontae Parker for 27 yards. They eventually got into somewhat of a field goal range because we didn't know if Ryland was going to hit it. And he did a 56-yard field goal to win the game. And the Patriots improved to 4-11. Broncos dropped to 7-8. And for the stats, Zappi, 25-33, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did have the fumble. The Patriots really didn't run the ball. 59 yards was the total amount of rushing yards. Zeke was their leading rusher with 27. Demario Douglas was their leading receiver, 74 yards. Devontae Parker at 65. Zeke had their receiving touchdown. Keep forgetting that Jalen Reagor's on the Patriots. But yeah, so he was involved. And then as for the Broncos, I mean, Russell Wilson had a decent game, 25-37, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Broncos only ran the ball for 83 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, he was their leading rusher with 37 yards. Marvin Mims was their leading receiver. He had 63 yards. Brandon Johnson, he had 3 for 47 in a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy had 3 for 44. Cortland Sutton actually got hurt in this game. He had to leave, which that was a big loss there. But yeah, Javonte Williams, Marvin Mims, both fumbling. Russell Wilson actually fumbled a couple times, but they didn't lose it. So, but yeah, that's a tough loss for the Broncos. I mean, credit to them for being able to come back into the game and tying it, but the defense couldn't stop Zappi and the offense. I mean, I honestly was surprised that Ryland made the field goal. I didn't expect that was going to happen, but it did. And yeah, that really hurts the Broncos' playoff chances. It really does. And this was a team that started off the season 1-5, looked like they were going to go nowhere, and then they put it together, and it looked like, hey, maybe they'll be able to squeak in, but now with these last 2 losses, getting blown out by the Lions last Saturday, and now losing to the Patriots, I mean, kind of seals their fate here. I mean, they really need a lot of help down the stretch. I mean, of course, they got to win out here. They got the Raiders last week of the season. They got the Chargers coming up. So those are 2 winnable games. I think they could beat the Chargers, but the way the Raiders defense has been playing, and the Raiders are not a bad team at home. I think that's going to be a tough game for them to win. So you got that, and then on top of that, you need the Colts to lose out. You need the Texans to lose. It's going to be tough. Actually, now that I think about it, did they get eliminated from playoff contention? Or are they still in it? Because I feel like because you got the Colts in the, they haven't been eliminated yet. So their chances are down to 1.4%. But I feel like they need, because the Colts and the Texans play each other to end the year. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, I guess you need the Texans to lose out because they have the tiebreaker over you. The Steelers, they need to lose out. The Bengals, they need to lose out. The Raiders, as well. Well, the Raiders and the Colts play each other. So I guess you're rooting for the Colts in that game. Actually, no. You're rooting for the Raiders in that game, and then you have to beat them last game of the regular season. Basically they need a lot for them to make the playoffs, so it's not going to happen. Because right now, looking at the AFC playoff picture, I mean, I think the Bills get in, the Browns are going to get in, And it's really going to come down to that final wild card spot. And if C.J. Stroud comes back, I like the Texans' chances of making the playoffs. But we'll see. It's going to come down to, I think, right at this moment, the Texans and the Colts. But C.J. Stroud needs to come back because they really miss him. And we'll talk about that later in the show. But, it's just unfortunate for the Broncos because, they gave their fans a lot of hope. And that hope is pretty much gone. And the Patriots, I mean, listen, they've been playing spoiler. They beat the Steelers. They beat the Broncos. At least they're showing some fight at the end of the year. I saw something that said that Belichick doubts his future in New England. So, I mean, this is pretty much it, I think, for him. Even though I did a segment a couple weeks ago on, it's pretty much it. They're saying that he's done in New England. But then it came out that it wasn't confirmed. But we'll just have to see. But yeah, I think it's his fate's pretty much sealed. Him and the Patriots are going to part ways after this year. And listen, the Patriots are kind of hurting their draft situation right now with them winning a couple games here. I mean, they're still going to take a quarterback. It just depends on who it's going to be. Because I think now the Cardinals jumped them. Now they're the number 2 pick. It's going to be interesting what some of these teams do, because if you got the Bears and the Cardinals there, you have Fields and Kyler Murray. Are those guys going to stay there, or are they going to move off of them? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, this game actually turned out to be decent, even though it wasn't star-studded. Again, you had Bailey Zappi against Russell Wilson. And again, it looked like the Broncos were going to pull it out, but, Belichick continues to own Sean Payton. So, yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this game. Again, the Broncos I went over it the best as I could, but the Broncos basically need, a lot of help in these final 2 weeks to make the playoffs. And again, they got to win out, which, again, I think they could beat the Chargers, but I think it'll be a tough game with how the Chargers played on Saturday against the Bills. Now without Brandon Staley, and I lost both Saturday games in the spread pool. And again, I even said, I'm like, I don't like taking all these favorites, but I'm like, I don't know which ones to switch. Well, the Saturday games were the ones to switch because, they both didn't go good. So, the Broncos got to win out, and they need every team ahead of them to lose. So, I don't. Unfortunately, especially with this loss, because I thought they would still win. I thought the game was going to go to overtime, and Patriots ended up getting into field goal range, and Ryland ended up making that 56-yarder, which he missed an extra point. You didn't really expect him to make it, but he did. So credit to him. So when we come back from our first break of the show, we are going to now talk about the Lions winning the NFC North for the first time in 30 years. So we'll talk about the game and what lies ahead for the Detroit Lions. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.